years ago. I had this play called I Can Do Battle by Myself, I think it was the first one, and Madea was in the show.
In 2015, Tyler Perry bought a Confederate Army base, not metaphorically, not as a symbolic gesture that would be described as symbolic in a press release. He bought Fort McPherson, a 33-acre former military installation in southwest Atlanta, built in 1881, used as a staging ground for Confederate veterans, later used by the United States Army, decommissioned in 2011, and he converted it into a film and television studio, his studio. The largest black-owned production facility in the history of American entertainment. He named it Tyler Perry Studios. He put a statue of himself as Madea at the entrance gate. He built 12 sound stages and permanent standing sets and post-production facilities and a full commissary and the physical infrastructure of a major studio operation. And then, at the opening ceremony in October of 2019, he invited Oprah Winfrey and Cicely Tyson.
I thought about it long and hard, and I think that you should drive BJ across country on this college
and
road trip.
Viola Davis and Samuel L. Jackson and dozens of other significant figures in Black American entertainment and culture, and he gave a speech. And in the speech, he said something that the room was not entirely expecting. He said, "I want you to know that this was built on pain." He said, "There are people here who have seen me at my worst. And I want you to know that I'm grateful to still be here." He said, "The Confederate soldiers had the same land to do what they were going to do with it, and because I built here, we don't have to worry about them anymore." Not symbolic. Structural. The land that had been used to organize the memory and the honor of the Confederacy was now the physical infrastructure of the largest black entertainment operation in American history. Tyler Perry did not make that statement in an interview or on social media. He made it by buying the land and putting up the buildings and signing the checks. That is the language he has always spoken, not words.
Why is she so petty? Oh!
I got time today.
Ownership. Have you ever done something that others described as symbolic and understood yourself to be doing something structural, the difference between making a statement and changing the foundation? Because that is the distinction that defines everything Tyler Perry has ever built. Not the statement, the foundation. But New Orleans comes first, because the foundation of Tyler Perry Studios is not Fort McPherson. The foundation is a boy in New Orleans who changed his name to get away from his father's and who spent 6 years sleeping in his car trying to build something the world had not yet agreed to let him build. Emmett Perry Jr. was born on the 13th of September, 1969, in New Orleans, Louisiana. His father, Emmett Perry Sr., was a carpenter by trade and a violent man by disposition, who answered difficulty with physical force and who communicated to his youngest son across the years of his childhood. A message so consistent and so complete that the boy eventually formalized his rejection of it in a courthouse. At 16,
That hedge is on my property. No, it's not. Look at the survey.
That's my hedge.
he legally changed his name. He became Tyler. Not because Tyler meant anything in particular. Because Tyler did not mean Emmett. The name was the first act of construction in a life that would become the most remarkable construction project in the history of Black American entertainment. He has described his father's violence with the flat, specific accuracy of someone who lived it and has spent decades processing it without minimizing it. He has described being beaten. He has described growing up in a household where the threat was constant and the actual violence was frequent, and where the only safe space was outside the house, the street, the church his mother took him to, the interior life of a boy who learned early to disappear into his imagination, because the imagination was the one place his father could not reach. His mother, Maxine, was the counterweight. Willie Maxine Perry, who worked as a childcare provider, who went to church
Hurry up down there. Watch the piano.
every Sunday and took her children with her, who modeled in the specific way that parents model things they never articulate. The possibility that a life organized around care and faith was possible inside the same zip code as a life organized around violence. Tyler absorbed both. He has said, "I saw my mother's strength." He has said, "The church was the only place I felt safe." He has said these things in many interviews across 30 years of public life, without romanticizing the childhood and without reducing it to a single note. The childhood was complex. The damage was real. The resources were also real. Both shaped him. He earned his GED. He left New Orleans. He drifted through his early 20s in Atlanta with the specific, purposeless energy of a young man who has survived something and has not yet found the language for what surviving it has made him capable of. He worked odd jobs. He spent periods homeless. The car, the streets, the specific margin of a person
For
without
all
a
of you
permanent
who hate
address.
Medea, you've got Chicago to thank for it.
No, we love Madea so much.
He has been precise about this in multiple accounts. There were months in Atlanta where the car was the house. He was not hiding this from himself or from anyone. He was in it. And then, in 1991, Oprah Winfrey said something on television about writing as therapy. He watched the show. He heard her say that the act of writing your experiences down could be healing. He went home, and he began to write. Have you ever received a piece of advice at the exact moment your life was ready to use it? A moment where the advice and the need aligned so precisely that looking back, it seems like it was planned. Because that is what 1991 was for Tyler Perry. Not a turning point in the drama school sense. A door. He walked through it not knowing what was on the other side, and what was on the other side was a play. He called it I Know I've Been Changed. It was a story about adults who survived child abuse, about the faith and the forgiveness and the specific grinding daily work required to build a life on the other side of the thing that was done to them.
Son of a bitch!
He invested $12,000 in a production at a theater in Atlanta in 1992. The audience was 30 people. He lost the $12,000. He went back to his car. He kept the play. He spent the next 6 years returning to it, reworking it, revising it, remounting it in different venues with different resources, trying different approaches to finding the audience he knew existed. 6 years. In those 6 years, he had the car and the play and the certainty that the play would work, and he had nothing else of particular economic substance. The certainty was not the certainty of a deluded person who cannot read evidence. It was the certainty of a person who understood from the inside that the story was true, that the experience it described was real and shared, and that there were people in Atlanta and beyond Atlanta who had lived it and had never seen it on a stage.
How's it going? You having a good time?
Dad, this is going terrible.
He needed to see it the way thirsty people need water. The audience arrived in 1998. I Know I've Been Changed sold out in Atlanta. It went on tour. It reached the black, southern, church-going, working-class audience that had never been the target demographic of the American theatrical establishment, and that had, in that absence, developed its own circuits of word-of-mouth and church bulletins and community radio that were invisible to the entertainment industry, but were entirely functional among the people they served. The play found its audience because its audience had always been there. Tyler Perry had simply been the first person willing to build something specifically for them. And then, Madea arrived. Mabel Simmons was not a calculation. Perry has said this multiple times, and the way he says it is consistent with it being true, the specific, certain way a person describes recognizing something they did not manufacture. He knew who she was before he wrote her down. She was the composite of
Precision, timing, HOA stand dance, people!
the older black women he had grown up around, the grandmothers and great-aunts and church mothers who said what they thought without apology, who deployed a particular combination of unconditional love and fully conditional tolerance, who operated on a moral code that was both absolute and pragmatic, who were funny in the specific, unperformative way of people who have absorbed enough of life to find it genuinely amusing. He played her himself. He put on the gray wig and the house dress and the orthopedic shoes, and he became, in the specific, total commitment way that transforms a performance from impression to character, a woman. The theatrical world, to the extent it noticed, did not know what to make of Madea. The critical establishment, when it eventually turned its attention to the question, decided that Madea was a stereotype, that the character perpetuated images that the serious project of black representation in American culture was supposed to be moving away from. Perry has engaged with this criticism across many years and many interviews with a patience that looks like equanimity but contains, on close reading, the specific steadiness of a man who understood from the beginning that his work was not for the people making the criticism. It was for the audience that had never been consulted about what their representation should look like. By
Really? No, they wouldn't let me. I'd be like, what the hell? Didn't I tell you to turn left? Turn this damn car around. See, that's what I wanted to say.
When Lionsgate agreed to distribute the film adaptation of Diary of a Mad Black Woman, Tyler Perry's theatrical productions were generating $40 million a year. The film opened at #1 in the American box office in February of 2005, earning $11 million in its opening weekend against a $5.5 million budget. The Hollywood trade press, which had described it before release as a niche product, unlikely to perform outside its target demographic, spent the following week analyzing what had just happened. Tyler Perry was not surprised. He had known the audience existed since he was sitting in a theater with 30 people in 1992, because the audience was not the 30 people in the room. The audience was
his child to be better than he was. My boy. The world is tough.
everyone who was like them and hadn't been told yet that the show existed. Have you ever built something for people who had been told by the institutions that were supposed to represent them that what they wanted didn't deserve to be built? Because that is what Tyler Perry did with every film and every television series and every standing ovation. He was not filling a gap in the market. He was serving a community that the market had decided did not qualify as a market. The decade that followed was the most productive and most scrutinized in the history of Black American entertainment. Film after film after film, at a pace that no studio system could replicate. Madea's Family Reunion. Madea Goes to Jail. Why Did I Get Married? The Family That Prays. I Can Do Bad All by Myself, for colored girls. Television series produced at the same velocity, House of Pain, The Haves and the Have-Nots, a content infrastructure that ran across Bet and OWN and later Bet Plus with the specific relentless rhythm of a man who had spent 6 years sleeping in a car building to this moment and was not interested in slowing down now that the moment had arrived. The criticism followed too. Black cultural critics argued with genuine intellectual seriousness and genuine investment in the question that some of Perry's characters perpetuated stereotypes, that Madea was a mammy figure, that the domestic violence narratives were handled without sufficient nuance, that the theological framework of the films reduced complex human experience to simple moral lessons. Perry engaged with this. He said, "I understand it, and I may not always get it right." He also said, "The people who criticize my work are not the people I make it for." He said it without hostility. He meant both things. In 2006, he established Tyler Perry Studios in Atlanta. In 2015, he relocated it to Fort McPherson, the Confederate base, the 33 acres, the 12 sound stages. He bought it outright. No investors, no partners, no studio executive with override authority. He owns the land, the buildings, the infrastructure, and the intellectual property of everything produced there. In the history of American entertainment, there are perhaps 3 or 4 figures who have achieved this level of vertical integration as independent creators. Tyler Perry is one of them. He is the only Black one. The opening ceremony in 2019 was the public acknowledgement of something that had been building for 20 years. Every film, every television series, every ticket sold, and every syndication deal, and every development agreement, all of it had been, not as strategy but as instinct, moving toward ownership. He has said, "I always knew I wanted to own." He has said, "I didn't want to be at the mercy of anyone." He said these things the way a man says things he understood before he could articulate them, the understanding that preceded the language, the way the 14-year-old who was beaten by his father understood that he needed to be in a room where the rules were different before he understood that the room he would build would be a studio on Confederate land in Atlanta. In 2021, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences gave him the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award. The award is not for filmmaking. It is for extraordinary distinction in humanitarian service. He received it for the documented, sustained, structural work of caring for people who are most consistently failed by existing systems. During the COVID-19 pandemic, he paid for the groceries of thousands of people at Atlanta area stores, not through a foundation, not as a tax-advantaged contribution, but by showing up personally, without announcement, and paying the bills of the people in line. He has funded students at Morehouse College and Clark Atlanta University. He has built affordable housing. He has given back to Milwaukee, to New Orleans, to the cities that shaped him, in the form of direct, specific investment in the people who live there. He is still here. In 2025, Tyler Perry Studios continues to produce content at a scale and a pace that the Hollywood system still cannot account for. He announced in 2024 that the studio would be pausing a significant expansion due to the rapid advancement of artificial intelligence in content production, a decision he described as prudent and that the entertainment press described as prescient, because the AI tools he cited were developing faster than almost anyone in the industry had predicted. He did not stop production. He paused the expansion and continued making things. He published a response to the AI question that became widely shared. "I am watching artificial intelligence very closely." He was not watching passively. He has a son, Aman, born in 2014, whose mother is Jalila Bekele, a model and activist. He has said that being a father changed what he understood about the cycle he had broken, that watching his son experience a childhood without the specific violence and absence that had defined his own was not simply personal, but structural. He had interrupted the cycle not just in himself, but in the generation after him. That is not nothing. That is, in fact, the whole point. There is something in Tyler Perry's story that the box office numbers and the studio acreage and the Madea franchise and the humanitarian award do not contain by themselves. It is in the courthouse in New Orleans, where a 16-year-old boy changed his name. It is in the car in Atlanta, where a 20-something man wrote a play on whatever was available. It is in the theater with 30 people, where he understood that the audience existed and would come if he kept going. It is in the check he wrote for Fort McPherson. It is in the grocery store in Atlanta during the pandemic, where he paid the bills of people in line, because that was the specific, available, immediate thing that could be done. None of these things are symbolic. All of them are structural. The courthouse was the first act of ownership. The car was the workshop where the ownership was built. The theater was the first proof that the ownership was worth something. The studio is where the ownership lives. The grocery store is what the ownership is for. He said it himself at the opening of Tyler Perry Studios in 2019, standing on the land that had once organized the memory of the Confederacy. "I want you to know that this studio is here because there are people who gave their lives so that I could be standing here." He said it to Oprah Winfrey and Cicely Tyson and to every camera present. He was not making a speech. He was making a statement of fact. And then he went inside and made another movie. What would you own, build, claim, establish structurally, not just symbolically, if the obstacles you had overcome from the beginning had been specifically designed to prevent people who look like you from owning anything? Leave a comment below. Because that is the question Tyler Perry has been answering since he was a 16-year-old in a New Orleans courthouse, and the answer has always been the same. Everything. All of it. Outright. Without partners. So that nobody can take it back. If this story found something in you, subscribe and tell me in the comments, what do you think is the most important thing Tyler Perry has built? Not the most famous. The most important. Because the answer to that question tells you what you believe the purpose of all of it actually is. And Tyler Perry, the boy who changed his name to stop carrying his father's, who built a studio on Confederate land, who paid grocery bills during a pandemic because it was the thing he could do, already knows his answer.